Hello and welcome. Today, we are pulling back the curtain on one of the most powerful yet kinda invisible forces in our global economy, channel management.
Welcome to Quick Course Digest. Just stop and think about that for a second. That phone in your hand didn't just magically appear. It went on this incredible global journey, crossing oceans, clearing customs, and navigating a whole maze of trucks and warehouses.
Well, that whole epic journey is orchestrated by a hidden network of experts. And mastering this incredibly complex flow, making sure everything moves seamlessly from the factory to you, that is the art and the science of channel management. So let's dive in and break down how it all really works.
First things first, let's start with the part you can actually picture, the physical movement of all this stuff. How does a product actually get from point A all the way across the globe to point B?
Right at the heart of this physical journey, you've got the freight forwarder. The best way to think of them is as the master coordinators, kind of like a travel agent, but for cargo. They don't actually own the ships or the planes, but they are the absolute experts who handle all the complicated logistics to get a shipment from a factory floor to its final destination.
And the process they manage? It's like a high-stakes, multi-stage relay race. It all starts with export haulage. That's just a truck or a train moving the goods to a warehouse. Then comes the really critical step, export customs clearance. You have to get all that complex paperwork perfect. At origin handling, the goods get inspected, maybe crated up and consolidated for the long trip. Then they're off, flying through the air or sailing across the ocean. When they arrive, they face import customs, another huge hurdle of documentation. And finally, import haulage covers that last mile, getting the product from the port to your local store. Every single handoff has to be perfectly coordinated.
Okay, so we've seen how the goods move, but how do they move, efficiently? This is where that physical journey meets a really powerful philosophy. Let's take a look at the engine that drives all this efficiency.
The core philosophy we're talking about is lean supply chain management. The key idea here is a relentless elimination of waste. It's all about looking at that entire journey we just mapped out and surgically removing anything that doesn't add value. Every wasted minute a truck is just sitting there, every unnecessary step in a warehouse, every extra box that's just collecting dust. Now, a really powerful tool for being lean is something called just-in-time inventory, or JIT. This system is just genius in its simplicity. Picture a car factory. The exact number of tires they need for today's production arrives from the supplier just as the cars are ready for them. Not a day early, not an hour late. That, in a nutshell, is just in time. The goal is to have almost zero inventory just sitting around. But, and this is a big but, JIT is a total high-wire act. There's a huge trade-off. On the one hand, the benefits are incredible. Your cash isn't tied up in inventory, waste is way down, and you're not paying for huge warehouses. But on the other hand, the risks are just as big. If a single supplier has a delay, your whole production line can literally grind to a halt. A sudden spike in demand, you can't meet it. A big storm or port strike, you're completely exposed. It is the very definition of high reward, high risk.
So if you're going to manage a lean, just-in-time system, you need to be able to see everything all at once. And this brings us to what's basically the digital nervous system of the supply chain: visibility and coordination, all powered by data.
Now check this out. This is a really fascinating insight. You'd think every company on the planet would be using real-time data, right? Well, in reality, only about 31% of them do it frequently. That means the vast majority are still operating with a time lag, making decisions based on old information. For that 31%, this isn't a problem. It's a massive competitive advantage. And the benefits you get from that data advantage are just transformative. With real-time visibility, you can spot a potential delay at a port and reroute a shipment before it becomes a crisis. You cut costs because you aren't just guessing about demand. You can catch a quality issue right at the source, not when a faulty product is already in a customer's hands. And all of this leads to happier customers and keeps you on the right side of all those complex global regulations. It's the difference between always reacting and being proactive.
And this isn't magic, it's technology. We're talking about IoT sensors on shipping containers, tracking location and temperature, or AI algorithms that can predict traffic patterns. All this tech turns what would be a chaotic flood of information into a perfectly coordinated dance, giving managers this incredible bird's-eye view of their entire operation.
But even with the best tech in the world, things go wrong.
The world is an unpredictable place. A resilient supply chain isn't one that avoids problems. That's impossible. It's one that can withstand them. So let's talk about navigating risk.
I mean, we've all felt the effects of these, right? A hurricane shuts things down, a massive traffic jam of container ships outside a port, a surprise customs inspection, or even just a simple paperwork mistake. These aren't abstract risks. They're the everyday, real-world problems that can bring even the most sophisticated supply chain to a dead stop.
And the impact of even one little delay, it just cascades through the entire business. Financially, you're suddenly hit with extra storage fees and lost sales. For your customers, it means broken promises and lost trust. And for your operations, it just throws your entire inventory and production schedule into total chaos. One small delay creates these massive waves in every direction.
So, how do you fight back? You build resilience. You diversify your partners so one problem doesn't sink the whole ship. You build strong, open lines of communication with everyone. You create contingency plans, like what happens if port A closes? We immediately pivot to port B. And you leverage all that real-time tech we talked about to see trouble coming and react before it even hits. And that brings us to the final thought. In today's world, disruption isn't the exception, it's the new normal. So the ultimate question for any business isn't if disruptions will happen, but how prepared you are for them. Is your supply chain a fragile liability just waiting to break, or is it a resilient, agile system that gives you your greatest competitive edge? That's really the core of modern channel management.